In the ancient times of old, when the world was filled with wonders and mysteries, there existed many mythical creatures. However, legends and tales were whispered about the extraordinarily giant creatures known as the Nephilim, their origins being a topic of wonder and myth. Who were the Nephilim? Were Nephilim and giants the same? Did these creatures actually roam the earth once upon a time? In today's episode, we embark on a journey to uncover the secrets that the Bible and many other non-canonical texts hold about the Nephilim. What you see on the screen right now is a fascinating group of celestial beings known as the Watchers or the Grigori. The Grigori were God's favorite group of angels. They were given a huge responsibility by God. The responsibility to watch over God's favorite creation, humans. God knew that humans were vulnerable and prone to sin, and they needed someone to watch over their activities. God thought of the Watchers as his best choice for this task. However, God had prohibited them from one thing. They were not to mingle with humans in any way. This means they could watch from afar, but that was it. We might think that godly beings like the Grigori would be devoid of sin, or they were not capable of sin. But they proved this notion absolutely wrong. You may be wondering how I know this. The thing is, the Bible doesn't tell us about the Watchers, although it does mention certain things about the sons of God, which indirectly means the angels. But there are certain apocryphal books or non-canonical books, like the Book of Enoch, that contain many mythical stories that were not included in the Bible. Several factors can be considered to be the reason. The Book of Enoch has a disputed authorship. Though it claims to be written by Enoch, many scholars believe that it was composed by many authors over a period of time. Also, the Book of Enoch did not conform to the mainstream Jewish and Christian theological beliefs. It's everything that the Bible is not. Like talking about cosmology, angelology, and esoteric teachings that may have been too speculative or unconventional for inclusion in the canonical Bible. Back to the Watchers, who thought that they were above sin, burst their own bubble when they fell for the daughters of men, meaning the mortal women. They were so attracted to them that they forgot who they were. The Watchers were a group of 200 angels who defied divine orders of God and procreated with the human women. This unusual union led to the birth of the Nephilim, often considered to be vile and cruel. These creatures were beings of extraordinary power and stature. They had a strange appetite, which included anything and everything that they could lay their hands on. This includes wild animals and even humans. When they couldn't find sufficient food, they would resort to cannibalism. When God found out what the Watchers had done, he decided to banish all the Watchers who were responsible for such a grave mistake to be chained for eternity into the depths of the earth, a place from which there was no return or escape. But then, what happened to the Nephilim? In the Book of Watchers, the Nephilim faced annihilation through the waters of the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event intended to cleanse the world of corruption. This was the same flood where Noah and his family escaped unscathed. Now, this doesn't mean that this was the end of the era of Nephilim. There were still some of their kind left after the flood. If you think that the Watchers learned their lesson and started fearing God after the flood, then you're absolutely wrong. They sinned again. Well, not the ones who were chained and thrown to the deeper depths of earth, but these were new angels who continued the same cycle as their ancestors. This account of the 10 spies who were sent to Canaan by Moses in the Book of Numbers portrays a situation where the majority of the spies delivered a negative and an exaggerated report regarding the Promised Land. Their report instilled fear and doubt among the Israelites, causing them to lose faith in God's promise and doubt their ability to conquer the land. The spies' report included references to the Nephilim claiming that they had seen these giants in Canaan, while biblical scholars strictly denied the existence of Nephilims after the flood and considered the stance of the spies as something highly exaggerated. We think that the Nephilim did exist even after the flood. If not, how would there be any more mentions of giants in the future events? Some scholars believe that the genetic characteristics of the Nephilim were passed down through the lineage of one of Noah's daughters-in-law. Another reference to Nephilim has been given in Genesis 14:5. However, they are named something different. The first ever reference to the Rephaim is given here. In ancient times, a great battle ensued between the Rephaim, Zuzim, and Emin peoples, who were giant clans, who faced defeat at the hands of King Kedorlaomer and his allies. As the Israelites approached the Promised Land following their miraculous liberation from Egypt, trepidation gripped their hearts. The land that lay before them was said to be inhabited by formidable beings, referred to as giants, or Nephilim in Numbers 13:33, which says, "We even saw giants there, or descendants of Enoch. Next to them we felt like grasshoppers." That's what they thought too. These towering figures were known by different names among the local communities, including Rephaim, Zuzim, Emin, and Anakim. According to Deuteronomy 2:20-21, the Rephaim were renowned for their strength and towering structure, much like the mighty Anakites. Their presence, along with the other giant clans, were scattered throughout the land of Canaan. Notably, King Og of Bashan, described as the last of the Rephaim in his territory, was an imposing figure. His enormous bed measured an astonishing 13 feet in length and 6 feet in width, a testament to the colossal size attributed to these ancient inhabitants. The road to the Promised Land was filled with all kinds of problems and foes, and King Og was one of them. The Israelites had a fight with him and his huge army. However, even before the battle with King Og's army, the Israelites had a deal with the king Sihon of the Amorites. However, nothing in the world could let these kings defeat the Israelites. Why? Because God had already given them his territory, and there was nothing that Og could do to reverse his fate. Another group of giants, known as the Anakim, were a prominent group dwelling on the land of Canaan during the time of Exodus. They were considered part of the Nephilim. Numbers 13:22 states that Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai were descendants of Enoch, the namesake of Anakim. The Emin and Zamzumin, other groups in the region, were also likened to the Anakim in terms of their stature and number. Joshua, who succeeded Moses, engaged in battles against Anakim and the Amorites. Through these military campaigns, the Anakim were largely eliminated from the land of the Israelites, with only remnants remaining in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. Then again, giants are mentioned in the book of the Bible of 1 Samuel 17. It's the story of the most popular giant, Goliath, a Philistine from Gath. He was an imposing figure, wearing bronze armor and carrying a massive spear. While the exact height of Goliath is debated, his strength and stature were evident by the weight of the armaments. It is possible that Goliath was the descendant of the Anakim, who mixed with the Philistine population in the area. Additional giants related to Goliath are mentioned in 2 Samuel 21:15-22 and 1 Chronicles 20:4-8. These giants, who were relatives of Goliath, were also Philistines from the region of Gath. They include Ishbi-Benob, Soph, Lami, and an unnamed giant with 6 fingers and 6 toes on each hand and foot. David and his mighty men engaged in battles against these giants, ultimately defeating them. These accounts prove that there were giants even after the Great Flood, particularly in the region of Gath. It's possible that these giants were descendants of the Anakim, who survived the various areas despite Joshua's campaigns. Now a great question remains. Were these giants actually the descendants of the demonic Nephilims, or were they normal human beings with abnormalities, like gigantism? The condition of modern gigantism, characterized by excessive production of growth hormone, is highly unlikely to have been the cause of the giants mentioned in the Bible, such as Goliath, the Nephilim, and Anakim. These biblical giants were often described as skilled warriors and mighty men, which contradicted the physical limitations and health issues commonly associated with modern giants. Another notable difference is that modern gigantism is not typically hereditary, whereas the Bible frequently depicts giants as offspring of other giants, emphasizing their lineage and genetic connection. Then why are they not talked about so often in the Bible? Whatever may be the cause, giants existed throughout the biblical era. They were always associated with being evil and arrogant. This is proof that the giants were never really gone after the Great Flood, and they multiplied in various parts of the world and formed clans. What do you think of this? Were the Nephilim and the giants one and the same? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.